Neighbours, everybody needs good neighbours. Just a friendly wave each morning helps to make a better day. Neighbours need to get to know each other. Next door is only a footstep away. If you have a neighbour who has given consent to take part in your destruction, then you have my deepest sympathy and empathy. Some alleged targets online seem to be downplaying the vital importance a neighbour can have in your downfall physically and mentally. So do be wary of any alleged targets who do downplay this. The despicable, depraved, twisted sadists that are such neighbours are the most crucial aspect in your targeting if you have the misfortune of one or more moving next to, above or below you. They can be moved in specifically to be a major player in your mental and physical disintegration, or an established neighbour who loses any humanity they might have once had for the sake of certain inducements, and so become deeply sick people willing to work for their paymasters. I have introduced you to a few of my neighbours willing to sacrifice their humanity as they secretly carry out the orders of those running this targeting program. But if you haven't watched the videos where I show these amoral, scummy vessels of malevolence, then let me introduce them once more. Nagesh Tashomi, with his sick wife and evil brood, were my tormentors and torturers from 2013 to 2017. Maybe my audio evidence of them played a part in their leaving, but I'm sure they did very well out of me financially and whichever other way they benefited through being demonically wicked when they were living in the flat below. They now live in a very modern apartment complex right next to the River Thames. Knowing the problems I'd had with this particular family turned to the dark side, my then housing officer, who wouldn't confirm or deny the evidence I showed him of outside harassers, assured me he'd find a replacement who would be the opposite of the devils that harassed, sleep deprived and so much worse. But the cynic in me took this with a pinch of salt, and I was proven correct. I can't say this housing officer was complicit, because he had been a very good housing officer and very helpful, but his choice in neighbour replacements was not the lovely old lady spending her days crocheting and making scones that I'd hoped for, and my new neighbours were much in the same mould as the previous ruthless mercenary thugs. One thing any target of these stalking, spying and harassment operations should be aware of is the police won't help and often will do the opposite. As I haven't slept in the flat since late 2016, these neighbours can't interfere with my sleep. And if you are a target with a neighbour agreeing to actively engage in this illegal targeting program, they will be provided with the means to target your sleep and health. So here's the replacement tenant and her partner that moved in 2017. As with the previous depraved beings, they too have kids, which I find abhorrent and disturbing given their complicity in these illegal operations. Not related to their various harassments, I will often come back from my sleeping in the car and smell skunk, So they're smoking this first thing in the morning as well as during the day and the evening. And remember, they have kids. Smoking skunk cannot be good for any developing brain, but maybe the kids aren't around when they're getting stoned. I don't know the partner's name, but I call him Muscles, and not in any ironic sense because he really is a muscly guy. I showed in a previous video how, as he climbed into his car, he said, "I'll get ya." He also wore this football shirt with the unusual wording of Stun 1. Was he alluding to what he and the tenant get up to in the privacy of flat number 7 as part of the invisible targeting? You have to admit that phrase is very odd. Most supporters of a football team would have the name of a player, but not Muscles. And here also are 2 instances timed to alert me to the fact they know I'm walking down the stairs, and this usually past 10 PM at night as I'm leaving to ride to the car for my sleep. And someone will open the door when I'm on their floor, say something, and then quickly shut the door. Almost the same phrase is used here, but instead of "I will get ya," it's "we will get ya." Presumably this wasn't from the neighbour, but it's close to the block that I live. So let's take the fact of a gang-stalking neighbour or neighbours and add it to the stalking and harassment outside by strangers, which I also have evidence of, and you'll understand a little more about these abuses courtesy of the state using citizen spies, stalkers and harassers. A recent theory I've arrived at is that a number of those within this block and living locally are aware that my previous neighbours and the current ones were and are part of these unlawful targeting operations and are okay with it. Such is my reputation, and that could explain their silence. I'm reminded of the scenes in films of gladiators fighting in an arena, and the life of one of those expendables could have been saved or earmarked for a swift death just by the direction of the Emperor's thumb. And each of those surrounding me and aware of what's going on are in effect giving their blessings for me to be silently and stealthily snuffed out, turning a symbolic thumb downwards. Unfortunately, here in the UK, polygraph tests are not admissible in court, but if such tests were allowed, I'd initially have the previous neighbours take the test quicker than you could say you're going down for crimes of harassment and torture. I'd film the whole process and also provide the questions for these ex-neighbours. But alas, we don't allow polygraph tests. So if or should I come into a lot of money, then do watch this space. In addition to the wealth of video evidence seen in my YouTube playlist, I've now placed a link to the audio files that I recorded of my ex-neighbours, and the link is in the description below. There are open office Word documents which you should use in conjunction with the audio files, and please do use earphones if you're going to take the trouble to listen to these many files. Thanks again for watching my video and for subscribing. Bye.